Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us with another episode of us, doing our thing.
Hi.
At us blared out. Don't forget to, like, subscribe, share,
Follow.
follow. If you want to watch us on YouTube, that's where we're at. If you, don't want to see us and just want to listen to us, we're basically on every podcast line that you can
Yes,
find.
search us. Blare it out.
Blared out. And, we've just been having one episode after the other just pull on our heartstrings, let us know what we can do to help. And just, the most amazing people on here. And it's just been, we feel blessed.
Definitely been blessed with some great guests.
And now we have somebody else that is joining us, our first solo male guest.
Thank you for having me.
And this is Q, and Q is a head of SAFE, which is Southern Arizona Victims Empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And, with this movie coming out of The Sound of Freedom and seeing what really happens to our children and being trafficked. And, I believe Desiree had said that too about, trafficking and what's happening to our youth and our young adults and just how scary it is. And then, I was posting about this on my website on Facebook and talking about this movie. And you had reached out and said, I would love to be you talked about the aftercare program with, I believe it's Undercover Railroad. Is that what I believe that it is with this program? But you're like, oh, I do this. This is what I do. I do the aftercare program.
So I've heard of them. That's a separate organization.
Yes. And they're separate, but that's kind of how I posted it. And you said that you do the aftercare program, which I want to know more about. What is it that your program does?
Yeah. So I'll talk about the program itself and then also the aftercare program to follow up.
Sure.
So I'll talk about kind of how it started, what inspired me.
I love
who
that.
helped me. But basically, it's a program that does hyperbaric oxygen therapy for children and teens who are victim of abuse. So all types, mental, physical, emotional. There's neglect, exploitation. And what started it off was I also work at a psych hospital, with kids and adults. And just seeing what they don't have access to, the resources they don't have, compared to like some of this private pay stuff. You start doing enough research. There's modalities, there's things out there to actually get better. So hyperbaric oxygen therapy isn't covered by insurance. So that's what the idea of the nonprofit. Right. So I found it because of my wife had done some research and found that there's a veterans nonprofit. And I had served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Good times, the hard part really was coming home and reclimatizing to, trying to get back into my life,
Yeah.
So this therapy helped me with physical injuries I had, concussions, toxicity, war-related illness. This therapy uses the body's own stem cells to repair itself, and they leave a lasting effect. Right, so they helped me out a lot. I got a brain scan. It's posted on our social media and our website. They were 5 years apart, and that brain scan is called a MRI DTI scan. So it's a functional brain scan as opposed to anatomical scans, which is what you'll get from insurance coverage or access.
Just kind of like surface level.
If they even do a brain scan. Right? So it's a surface level scan. Best way I could explain it is like if you have a picture of a wrecked car and you take it to the mechanic, that's easy, right? He's going to ask to see the guts. What's going on with it?
What does it really look like?
All these, like just talking about what they do have, right? Thank God for access. Thank God for these community resources, right? But they are treating the symptom, and everyone within is doing their best, from the psych doctors, down to the nurses, the techs, the peer supports, everyone that supports behavioral health, But when I was getting treated for brain injuries and war-related illness. That was a fundamental idea that I learned from my neurologist. Is like everything we do, every expression, thought, outward, everything we do, it comes from the brain, right? And it's a biological, chemical thing that commands us to behave or not to behave, right? And the foundation of behavior is your brain, right? So if you go to a psych appointment, what you're observed as is a clinical diagnosis, right? Because they don't look at the brain, they don't look at the biology. It's not in their resources, they can't, right? Because they don't do that, what they're doing is giving a clinical diagnosis, which is a presentation of symptoms. Right, so what we see with the kids is diagnoses from schizoaffective, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, all different types of personality disorders, borderline personality disorder, all kinds of drug use disorders, right? And if someone's behaving in a way, in a pattern, and they can't seem to stop, no matter the consequence, no matter the guilt, that's where we want to start. What does the biology look like? Right, so if the biology is off, that's similar to having broken hardware in a computer, and behavioral health is like the software upgrade. Right? So you're trying to upgrade a computer that doesn't have the proper hardware. Right? And for the kids, you could put the best therapists, psych doctors, put the best team in front of them. If they don't have a brain that processes, if they don't have a brain that has insight, they're not being reached. Right? And I'm not saying all these kids in the behavioral health system, especially access covered, like they're all doomed, but what I do trust is the pattern.
Are you seeing that this trauma and the abuse that these children have gone through is actually damaging the brain? You're seeing brain injuries from that trauma?
So we have objective evidence.
Okay.
We have specific brain scans, even toxicity reports. Toxins that flow throughout the body make it to the brain, cause damage at a biological level and affect behavior.
Wow.
Those toxicity screens aren't done by insurance either. It's all community funded. It's all nonprofit.
Wow.
Right. And I think I drifted from your question. What was the original question?
No, I feel like
you answered
it.
Yeah.
Just curious, because I don't think when we see these children having these personality disorders, or it really is trauma disorders, is what you're saying. And we're, from insurance point of view, they're fixing the physical, or not the physical problem, the problem that they see.
The basic problem.
The outward behavior.
The outward behavior. Yeah. But what you're saying is through what you're seeing is that you
like
can
the
actually,
brain wiring,
you can heal your brain through this chamber.
Yes.
And it can actually heal, which is amazing.
So how does the chamber work exactly? I know you were saying that it helps to now I can't even think of the word.
You said it healed. Will you explain it to us? So
I run the nonprofit out of North Star, hyperbaric North Star Neurology with Dr. Hendricks. She's treated lots of brain injuries over the year. Her clinic opened in 2007. Prior to that, she was doing this, for NFL players, for MMA fighters, boxers, pretty much any sports or occupation that requires you to get hit in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or exposed to trauma. Right, which also physically rewires the brain. Right. Okay. If you just Google MRI, DTI scans, and then put in any disorder, put in personality disorder, put in bipolar, put in any drug use disorder, and there's a lot of examples, a lot of these brain scans being taken that show objective evidence that the brain is damaged, so is the behavior, and what follows is the consequence action of that behavior. And then they're adults and we're mad at them because they can't cope.
Right.
If you get to talking to them, get them to go back in their stories, almost all were betrayed by some adult or adults at a young age. Right. And Eric Erickson has a chart, right, of kind of like pathways that one can take, given off like an age group, right? And from 0 to 5 years old, the brain is wired to trust adults. It's not wired to think. It's not wired to conceptualize.
Just pure survival.
Pure survival of fallen adult. So when that is betrayed, it's nature versus nurture, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Nature versus nurture, and that's ingrained early on. One of the first behaviors that's ingrained, right? So then they're, late teens or young adult, right? And they're behaving in a way, they're doing things, and we're mad at them. Like, get it together, can't you see what you're doing in your life?
Yeah.
Using drugs, you're losing your kids, losing your money, losing your friends, you're losing it all. But like I said, I trust a pattern.
Yeah.
Pattern,
It shows what's actually happening.
like if you gathered all this data, more of them than not are negatively manifesting this insecurity throughout their lives, right? And that's what we see. At that point, we see them as a young adult, and we don't really understand. I didn't understand until I went through the therapy, and I got my own recovery in. Right. So the way the therapy works is we're in a steel tank. Our chamber holds 6 people, and uses an air compressor to compress the atmosphere inside of there to what we call 1.5 atmospheres. It's our 1.5 ATA is a measurement, which is about 16 feet underwater, equivalent to.
Wow.
Right? And then you wear a mask that's giving you 100% medical grade oxygen.
Okay.
Right. So under pressure, your cells, where we're sitting right now, your cells have 1 oxygen molecule. And under pressure, it has up to 7. So that's 700 times
increase.
The resources. Right. So to avoid side effects, we treat for about an hour.
Okay.
Every day, 5 days a week for 8 weeks is a program.
Wow.
Every day,
So,
5 days a week for 8 weeks.
for 8 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
So that's 40 treatments, and 40 is the international standard at this prescription, at this treatment, for a chronic injury. Right. We reassess at 40, and our doc decides, they either need to get some more treatments or let some time pass, let the therapy work, get another brain scan. We'll put them on top of each other, and if we need more, we'll keep going.
You're seeing what are you seeing after these sessions?
Initially, there isn't much effect starting. They start to round a corner, like, I don't know, we'll say like 20 or 30. Like, okay, I'm starting to get sleepier, right? Because when the body wants to heal, it wants to rest. The body doesn't care what you have to do, whether you have, kids, family, job, like all of that.
Needs
like,
to rest.
Like when your body wants to recover, like, that's a little kid inside you throwing a fit, right? So that's what we're seeing is that's the initial behavior, is like sleep, kind of grogginess. And then as they go on with the therapy, they'll get some more energy, they'll get a little boost, they start to feel really good, and then they turn another corner, right? A brain that wants to be healthy doesn't allow itself to compartmentalize. So there's boxes that open up because the brain wants to be better, because it starts to feel better. So the difference is before the therapy, when they go to these therapists or these other meetings, it's either forced on them or they decide to talk about it, right? So they open the box and they feel like hell, right? It's followed by bad feelings, and that's to be expected, but then they leave the session, it's kind of like, well, now what? Right? What do they do with those bad feelings, right? So as the brain heals and those boxes open up, the context is different, right? For myself, I would say, like, things I would argue about or get upset about, like, I had some clarity prior to, like, saying or doing, like, whatever I did as a pattern, right? So we see that early on with the kids, right? They may not be willing to talk about it, but they're more willing to confront it in their mind. And after they do the therapy, however long it takes, however many scans we need to take, we provide aftercare programs for the kids too, right? Just to give them outlet. I had 2 parents that gave me outlets. Right? I played baseball like my dad when I was a kid, and then I started wrestling, even breakdancing with my friends when I was younger. We all just kind of, me and my sisters took our own path. right? But with my parents' framework, with their ideals, their code of honor, right? So whatever it is we did it to the max, right? So one of our program is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right? Damio BJJ is a gym I train out of that hosts Save. For now, I plan to expand out to other gyms, whoever's willing to host. But yeah, that's for me. Jiu-Jitsu was a powerful tool coming home from war. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever heard of self-determination theory?
No.
No, I don't think I
not.
have.
So it's the theory that what makes us us, what makes us purposeful in this world. So if we rewind back to like our caveman days and we're chilling as a tribe, right? Our number one is to survive.
Yeah.
Okay, we survived. Okay, now what? How do we exist within another? How does it all work? So self-determination theory talks about how in a tribe, right, you have to have autonomy, right? And trauma hijacks your autonomy, hijacks your identity, right? So our kids, these vets, other vulnerable groups, -1 already, right? They're struggling with their autonomy, right? Because if you know who you are and what you do and you live with purpose, right, a lot of other things begin to line up. Right? So autonomy is the first one. The second one is comprehension and knowledge. Like, yeah, I know who I am, but I'm good at who I am, right? I'm validated in who I am. And that validation comes from the connectivity within the tribe, like whatever the social contract is, whatever it is you gather under. Right? So those two things are fundamental to us just being humans along with other humans on this planet, right? Just to
In order to
basically
function.
exist.
Yeah.
Right? And the way groups gathered compared to now, like because it was about survival, right?
Yeah.
The groups gathered and they were stronger. You had your leaders. You had to be able to put aside differences. And if you pay attention to the way groups gather nowadays in our comfortable societies, like, you could be a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and just kind of go from group to group to group, right? And that kind of goes against our natural programming, the way we were supposed to be connected to other people, right? So when you get into like this nonprofit thing, it's a lot like that. It reminds me of the military. We were gathered purposefully, right? And our kids, instead of just being victims, instead of just being their experience, the aftercare programs will help empower them, right? So not everybody's into jiu-jitsu, right? They don't love it as much as I do.
My husband loves jiu-jitsu. All my kids are in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we're a cult.
It really
We're
is.
a straight up cult.
Yeah.
It is. I know that's how how I heard your name was April, and April was in jiu-jitsu, and so is Phil.
Phil and the kids,
But it's so. I try to learn basic self-defense, just being in real estate and going into houses that are terrifying when you don't know who is you're meeting, who's who. And so I just think jiu-jitsu is so important for everyone, to be honest.
Even if it's gets you out of a situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can block, and get out,
Yep.
find a door, find your car.
Just get out of that.
If you successfully defended yourself, you lost the fight, but you came out alive because you defended it.
Yeah.
And that's jiu-jitsu.
You survive.
It's not always just, like a tournament photo or like
Yeah.
a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's ugly, but it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's wonderful.
So jiu-jitsu is a good example of like self-determination theory. When I got back from my last deployment in Afghanistan, I got out and came home. I was kind of lost. I was drinking a lot. I was getting some pills from the VA, mixed the two. Right? And,
Tough
you change the biology in the brain, the behavior follows. Right? This is exactly what we've been talking about. So I was just going and going. I thought it was just like PTSD trauma, and then I started to feel like aches in my body. I started to get physically sick. And the VA will later diagnose me with Gulf War syndrome. It's an unknown illness, but it all points towards toxicity. burn pits, environmental stuff like that.
Okay.
Right, so that was, I didn't know I was sick with that. I was just kind of degrading, and so was my mental state. And I started training jiu-jitsu with Manuel Flores and Brenda Soto at Damio BJJ. It's here in Tucson. And slowly, before I even knew what self-determination theory was, I slowly fell into those things. Right? And once those things started to line up, other things in my life did as well. Probably about 2-3 years on, I had found North Star Hyperbaric, and they helped me out a lot. Right? So having the two modalities, having my brain, chemistry and biology changed and improved on top of having community, was like that was the formula, right?
Yeah.
So there was another foundation that helped me out, helped me fund jiu-jitsu, because the community, you start making excuses, you get called out, and they take them away from you. And I do appreciate that. Saying, oh, I don't got the money to train, or I don't have time, right? So Manny, the owner of the gym, allowed me to train at first without paying. He's like, fine, don't pay, come and train. I was like, damn, all right. What do I have to say now?
Yeah, you can't have an excuse for that one.
So I started showing up. And another foundation I became a representative of is called the We Defy Foundation. And they provide jiu-jitsu as a therapeutic outlet. They blew up. They're nationwide now, so check them out. We Defy Foundation.
Unify?
We Defy.
We Defy.
Yeah.
I like that.
So their slogan is "Prove them wrong."
Prove them wrong.
And I love that because we're not just victims.
Yeah.
Like I'm these experiences, but this is like really who I am over here. Right.
Right. It's just something you went through.
So I was one of the first to go through their program before they did blow up, and they still invite me to events. I'm an ambassador for them and all that. So that's what inspired me to start this, is having a job at a hyperbaric clinic, watching people recover in a pretty, in an 8-week period, 10-week period, some up to 6 months.
Yeah.
Compared to working in a psych hospital, where they're giving clinical diagnosis by psych doctors and medicated for those symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're working with what they got. I've had conversations about them at the hospital about this therapy. They're on board, they believe in it, but the thing is, insurance doesn't cover it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The FDA only acknowledges hyperbaric use for about 12 or 13 things, I think. Right? Everything else is considered off-label use. We're considered off-label use. We have all the objective evidence, and it's still not recognized by the FDA as a medicine.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want you off the pills.
Yeah.
They don't want you off the...
Yeah, there's some agenda that's much bigger than our foundation, for sure.
Money agenda.
I mean, because you're seeing it. You're working there. You're seeing the healing in
life.
yes.
Yeah, lifetime.
You're seeing the evidence.
Yeah.
You said that, you patterns, and you're seeing this, and yet it's really hard to get access to.
Yes. Yeah. So another thing the therapy does is it's the only known therapy to regrow blood vessels.
Wow.
And it uses your body's own stem cells. So it proliferates stem cells out of the bone marrow, giving you access to, that's the best stuff right there to heal
Wow.
you.
Yeah.
And that's just from being in this tank with
Pressurized
that pressure?
tank.
So they figured this out with divers.
Wow.
Divers would dive deep and then ascend too fast, and they would get what you call the bends. Right? The bends, nitrogen narcosis, all that comes with diving accidents.
Yeah.
Right? And what was believed before was that it was the nitrogen bubbles that stayed in the body and wreaked havoc in the body. But actually they pass through relatively quickly. The nitrogen's out of your body. But what they do leave is the aftermath. Right? They leave the aftermath, and that causes chronic inflammation. Causes what you call a cytokine storm. It's your body's own resources basically attacking yourself.
Wow.
Right? And this response behaves kind of like the military. Like normally your responses in your body are supposed to behave like the police. Like, hey, what's kind of going on around here? Is everything cool? And then they take care of what they need to take care of. Right? This response, this overreaction, is like the military. Right? That's like, there's a bad guy in that house. Let's Let's wipe
Your
out the
body's
house.
just attacking itself.
So, and that's what the body's designed to do, is protect itself. And that was like a feedback loop with the bends. So under pressure with medical grade oxygen, one of the first things it does is normalize cytokines in the body and decrease inflammation. Right? If doctors can decrease inflammation, that would allow them to do their job a lot easier, because that's the main system or symptom of everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And it comes out as markers in the blood and autoimmune disease. A lot of us with war-related illness, they're manifested as autoimmune disease, which the cause of autoimmune disease is unknown, and the cure for it is unknown.
And it's becoming more and more popular, autoimmune disease, I've noticed. It's definitely
It's much popular but common.
yeah, it's increasing, which is scary.
So with that, we do treat that clinic as a private pay clinic as well. So there's 2 nonprofits. There's one for the vets, and then there's mine for the kids. And some of the private pay clients that just come in and pay out of pocket, and they'll treat autoimmune disease. And we've seen quite a bit of them actually get off their meds.
Wow.
Their meds that were designed to control inflammation. But also we're seeing that they need to get home chambers. This is a lower prescription, lower grade, and treat in their houses and treat every day, to keep it under control. Again, very expensive, but it is.
Yeah, what does something like that cost?
Let's see, 10 to 15,000
Wow.
for a consumer
chamber.
grade one
And
in your
then-
house.
And that's just, I'd be scared that I wouldn't know how to use it though. And then,
Yeah, they're you could be trained. It's not too bad. Yeah.
I mean, it's all so fascinating. I remember our friend April Bidwell got into a horrible car accident, and she was going to yours, right? I think it's yours, or is she going to the other one?
No, she's
Yours.
going to ours.
Yeah, and she was telling me all about it. I was so confused. I'm like, okay, are you going in like a submarine? And she, explained it.
She's laughing.
And she explained it to me. But she said that it really helped because she had brain damage and swelling and inflammation and all of that stuff. And she still does one here and there, right? Or just
So I'll get on her to get back.
Yeah.
She got some more. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's one of our success stories. Her story's still going.
Yeah.
So far, she's one of our success stories, and knowing them personally, hanging out with them, all the time, it was nice to see her recover. Unexplained mood swings, bad thoughts.
Yeah, she was losing her short-term memory, I remember.
Short-term memory,
Yeah.
and her being not just a real estate agent, but a successful real estate agent who's very busy.
Yeah.
So having a car accident, head injury that changed her life, in a day, like in a moment, changed. It was nice to see her recover and slowly get her happiness back and coping.
Yeah.
So that's the vision, the dream of Save. Came more out of anger, frustration. A lot of working with a lot of people who see the problem and call it out, complain about it. So me and a group of friends, I got 3 others on the board. We started this program, and that's the goal. So we have one recipient right now. The goal is to raise $4,000 by the end of the summer to pay for all of her scholarship, pay for the treatments and the aftercare programs. And it's a slow climb. I would like to help as many kids as possible. We get, unfortunately, there's more kids that help than we can provide.
Yeah.
I think that'll be always the case. So
What's the youngest child that can do this?
So from babies to teens,
Really?
Babies too.
babies to young adults. Right, and I talked some of the challenges I've had so far. The situations are complex for these kids. The parents either have trouble getting them to us, or they need their own recovery, get better, so they can get their kids to us. Right, so we have a network of support one of our board members, she teaches trauma-informed yoga therapy. And she sits with the moms, and through movement, through woman to woman, empowering one another. She's helped the moms. She helps the kids.
Wow.
And she helps anybody at that clinic. She works at the clinic and private pay, nonprofits, anyone that passes through. She's our resource. Like I said, as these boxes open up, they need an outlet for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it's amazing. I mean, yoga is so beautiful as it is, and to be able to, I don't even know what a trauma yoga would look like.
Yeah, it's a specific
Meditation.
title.
Yeah.
But yeah, it tends to their outward reaction to trauma.
Okay.
Their inward reaction. There's plenty of signs to show us that our experiences find a place and sit in our body.
Yeah.
Physically hurt us. Pain in our neck, our back. I learned that for women, they hold a lot in their hips.
Yeah.
Hips are guarded. So doing hip openers on top of some deep breathing, later in the day, they might be like, oh, wow, I'm really sad. What happened? And some of that biological, that release, sometimes it's without incident, without thought. It's just something that the body had to feel, and we don't always get to understand it or explain it. So it's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, everything you're doing, we have talked about this on this podcast too, about when you've gone sober and the trauma comes.
Yes.
Because you've opened up these boxes.
Or you've allowed them to.
You've allowed them to open up, and they just come in so strongly. And a lot of times that will detour you from your sobriety because you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to handle it.
Yeah, you get some sober time, and then, a catalyst, like the perfect storm, and then you're like, yeah, that's why I drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was
why
running
I'm
from.
taking these pills with drinking. 'Cause,
Yeah.
it's a double escape.
Yep.
As long as
Just
I'm
turn it on.
escaping, I don't have to feel it. It'll wear off. I go to work. Work lots of hours, keep myself busy.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get some alone time, I don't. Yeah, it was hard to be sober and sit with yourself.
Yeah.
Not impossible. I mean, there's a lot of inspiring stories. A lot of my friends, family who got sober, and it's their stories, hearing their things. When it seems impossible, I'm like, well, they did it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these chambers can help with something like that as well.
Behavior.
Just the behavior. Okay.
So it's a wound and tissue healing modality. The brain is a tissue.
Yep.
And there's countless ways to define a TBI, right? You can get blow force trauma. It could be a drug overdose. It could be environmental trauma, being exposed to, like I was saying, if they get wired at an early age to nature instead of nurture, it all cooks up to this point, right? That's why I love the Joker movie, the most recent one. It's because the writers of that movie, they threw in little things like for people in our jobs that were like, yeah, there it is. Right? There's a scene where he talks about a head injury. Right? There's a scene where they's sitting with a social worker and they're like, I'm sorry, there's nothing else we can do for you, right? And their benefits were over, right? So that kind of thing will make kids cold and callous, and that's their first identity. They have no other life to relate to at that time, right? So it becomes embedded, becomes ingrained, right? So instead of just being victims, instead of not having the resource, and you become the Joker, if you're empowered, then Batman's the other way.
I actually
Both of them have,
love that.
Yeah, both of them have extreme trauma in their childhood.
Yeah.
And that's a good example for me. I grew up watching it, reading comics, so it just made sense to me that you're going down a path, and life gives you this trauma. You didn't ask for it, but what you do have to decide is like, for me, that's the way I see it: Joker or Batman.
Yeah. Which
path you
way
wanna
go, or how do you get the sources to?
And how do you make that split?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you even have the insight to make that split?
Mm-hmm.
Or you
A lot of
just
people don't.
do what you do. And,
Yeah. Or am I just born the Joker and I'm supposed to be the Joker?
Yeah.
You were told that in your head somewhere.
and if you lack identity, you start to embrace that. 'Cause it's your identity, right?
You're coping. Yeah.
80% of the I heard this on a commercial for some advocacy group for prisoners getting out of prison. 80% of prison population were systems kids, group homes, psych hospitals, in and out of orphanages, things like that. 80%. Right? So again, that's a pattern. Are we all
So
are we all
sad.
doomed? No, but I definitely trust the pattern.
Yeah.
And I would save is to find that fork in the road, that split. Where a lot of us, as kids, you've heard, like if you go back as a kid and talk to your kid self, in a bad situation, like what would you tell them? How would you redirect them? Right, and that question right there is the formula for this program.
For the healing. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's so many questions I have just because I think it's so incredible what this is. And I just started learning about it.
Yeah.
I had no clue that this was even existed.
Yeah.
I knew that April had done it, and I knew that it helped heal her or started to heal her, brain injury. But I did it. That was a physical injury. I saw her get into a car accident. I saw the wounds. For a child, like you said, from 0 to 5, that has broken nurture versus nature and has been through such extreme trauma, maybe some of the things that they didn't even remember has happened to them as they're older, and they start to create these identities or lack of identity. And to be able to have something like a resource like this that could actually heal and open up these boxes to help also heal therapy. So it's therapy plus healing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, this should be available to everyone.
So I thought the same thing when I discovered this. I mean, the events in my life led me to this place, and that's how I know about it. But if you do the research, other countries are using this as a standard of care.
Wow.
Israel does it for their troops.
Oh my
So
gosh.
if you're in a traumatic incident or a witness to a traumatic incident, anything combat related, you're taken off the field, you're treated with hyperbarics, and then you go through a gauntlet of social workers and therapists that clear you for further duty. And so they're dealing with trauma as soon as it happens, fresh that day.
Wow.
Right, so they're
Smart.
spearheading a lot of the research. They got a lot of data, a lot of objective research that shows the point we're making here. Right?
And that you think the reason why we're not adapting to that or growing like they are and using this resource is because there's just a lot of red tape?
Red tape, right? If you sit in front of a doc who isn't able to look at your brain, who has to guess, an educated guess, years and years of educated guess for sure, but they have to guess, what you may be diagnosed with, and how to treat it, right? So there's a obligation to diagnose, treat, and prescribe for, said thing.
Yeah.
Right, to where a private clinic like ours, we're not concerned with what you call it, because the brain scans all look very similar. You put an MMA fighter's brain on top of a vet's brain who's around explosions. I mean, they put them on top of each other like that, and you can see very
the
similar
trauma.
damages. Yeah, and our trauma, our PTSD, is also a physical reaction to physical pain, right? And it's treated as strictly as psych, strictly as mental, right? But where is mentally? What does that mean? Mental? It's from the brain. Right?
Exactly.
So, like in order, right? If you look at us like a computer, like we repair the hardware so you can upgrade the software. So we want to be a starting point. So psych doctors, psychologists, therapists, peer supports, everyone that's trying to reach these kids, we like to put a child in front of them with a healthy brain that's insightful, ready to go.
Because you need one with the other.
Yeah.
You can't just heal the brain without the therapy, and you can't do therapy without healing your brain because the damage is still going to be there.
You need the tools and the coping
You need the
mechanisms
tools.
to continue that healing.
Because some of these kids probably don't even know what really happened to them.
No.
They've blocked it out.
If you don't have insight, you don't know that you don't have insight. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing about their
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So even talking to this therapy to them, it's another language. It's coming from another planet.
Yeah.
And it's usually the caretakers or parents that are like, "Come on, we're going."
How are you getting your name, your foundation into the hands of the people that need it?
So I'm starting off. I actually had to get out of my own head, my own like talking on the podcast. Right,
Yeah.
it was like out of character for me.
Well, you're doing amazing.
But just starting to do that.
Yeah.
More social media posts, being active on Instagram and Facebook, and having friends and family support. When you start something off like that, it's usually like the same 5 people who like all your stuff, who shared all your stuff. So now with picking up some momentum, it's nice to see like strangers, people in other countries or states,
Yeah.
just shouting us out, sharing our stuff.
Well, this is important. This is so important. And that you have proof that this works. And we've said so many times where you see kids that have been through, and adults that have been through so much trauma, and they create these lifelong habits and create these really negative situations for themselves and probably have no clue why. Or they do, and you're hiding it. You just don't want to deal with it, right? We never want to deal with our trauma. We want.
Or are they even asking why?
Yeah, you don't want it. You want to run from it.
Is the conversation even had like forget alone out loud? Is even a thought in the head?
Yeah.
Or why? Or is it just like this is the way it is?
And you were saying even with someone like April, who's one of the nicest, happiest people ever, she, because of her injury, was dealing with some negative thoughts. We don't even realize why these negative thoughts enter our brain, and things like suicide or, which is serious depression. And those thoughts, those negative thoughts consume you. And this is something, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to therapy, and I really struggle with therapy because I am a pretty open book, but I also don't know where and why I'm feeling these things. I know I have trauma. I know I have childhood abuse. There was a lot of trauma in my past. Some things I remember, some things I don't. And these things, because I went sober for 6 months, all started popping up. And I was feeling sick. I couldn't understand it. I didn't know why. So then what did I do? And I didn't want to deal with this therapy anymore. I don't want to keep digging. I didn't want it all to come out. So if I were someone like myself, were to go through these healing chambers and therapy, how does that work? It's like my brains keep being healed plus my mind and my thoughts.
So you would start with the hyperbarics, to repair the biology, to repair the physical structures in your brain, right? And that'll allow you to sit in front of the therapist. Not that it's going to be easy.
No.
At all. It's never going to be easy. But it will be easier because one of the consequences of trauma or physical brain injury is like that lack of insight, that compartmentalization, right? It's something that you learned early on, right? And you're like, this works.
Okay.
As long as I see myself hover above my trauma and I'm not there with it, this works. And what makes us hover is drugs, alcohol, and other vices, behaviors. So in this population, you see increased drug use, you see promiscuity more, you see them learn to be manipulative, right? They're cold, so they learn how to be cold, and they've been manipulated. Now they know how.
Yeah.
Now they and then we're mad at them. We see these behaviors, and
And people pleasing can kind of be one as well.
People pleasing, right?
The lack of boundaries.
You weren't validated or respected prior.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you want to forget that lives in your brain.
Yeah.
And then it comes out as, I need someone to tell me that, this about me or that about me. And if I don't hear it, you know, then I'll feel bad. If
Yeah.
if I walk in a room and everybody doesn't like me or someone doesn't like me, like this
Yeah.
pit in my gut, like
Lack
what do you
of
mean I like me?
validation.
Your
What
view
did
of
I
life
do,
is different.
right?
Yeah.
What did I do, right? So that's another thing that cleared up with me with going through the therapy. It's just been all right with those things. They weren't like a gut wrenching thought. Okay, fine, someone doesn't like me, you know, or driving. You know, driving brings out kind of the animal in a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so getting cut off, you know, and then stopping at the red light with the same person. Just being able to like look over and he's screaming and yelling and just, okay, fine.
Yeah.
That were maybe when I first got home, you know, with my injury and also with my training fresh, you know, I might have made another decision that I would regret. So not because I want to hurt somebody, but you know,
Just your instinct reaction.
I lost my cool.
Yeah.
I'm accountable for losing my cool. So I find therapy is another thing. So I don't go back that way. So I'm not just injured. I'm not just a victim, right?
Yeah.
Having that autonomy reestablished or born in the first place, you know, is huge for these kids, right? And the community programs, aftercare programs are really designed to keep tabs on them.
Yeah.
If we're paying monthly for some kind of activity, they got to show up, they got to check in with us. And if they're not doing good, then we'll bring them back in, raise some more money, get some more treatments with them or more resources.
Wow.
Like we're peer supports. So we hit a limit when it comes to helping them, where now it's therapy. Now the clinical professionals take over.
Okay.
Right, so we're like a bridge between
Between the two.
between the two.
Yeah. I mean, how do we get you funds? That's what. Do you have a website?
I have a website.
Okay.
I'll post it in the description.
Yeah, we'll link everything because I mean what you're doing is so important, and especially the world we live in right now where we want everyone to box everything in.
Yeah.
We want them to hold it in. We want you, it's okay you've been through some issues. We understand you've gone through a really hard time. Now go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
You hide it.
Or here's this pill to
Or
help
here's
you
this
hide
pill
it.
to help
Yeah,
you out.
which I hate.
And almost block it from ever being exposed so you can't ever heal.
Yeah. And then we can't hide it no more. It's like, what are you doing?
Then
man?
you
Yeah.
then you explode.
Why are you doing this? You know,
Yeah.
why would you do that to yourself, your family, your friends?
Exactly.
You know, and you're just like, I don't know.
I didn't do it.
I mean, there's
I know I did it.
Yeah.
I know I'm accountable.
Physically,
but
I
I
did
can't
it.
tell you like why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So some of the objective things we see in the brain is those connections. Like there's parts of our brain that is meant to behave like an animal,
Yeah.
meant to protect yourself. It's meant to be a part of a pack, meant to be validated by a group. And
Yeah.
then we got this front part of our brain that separates us from the animal kingdom. That's our conceptualizing. That's our, you know, why we fly a plane and drive a car and like, you know, live the way we do is because of that part of our brain.
Frontal cortex. Yeah.
Well, you think of some of these kids and what they've gone through and the wiring that's happening in their brain because they're constant flight or fight. And on top of it, all trust is gone because a lot of the abusers were supposed to be protectors. And how much it changes your brain chemistry just right there. How do you trust again? How do you move on and live a normal life where you can love and be loved and have this healthy life after you've overcome probably the biggest trauma, and it will repeat itself over and over again. So something like this where you can really dive in and heal your brain, and because I've always said therapy's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's
great
absolutely
advocate for
wonderful. But sometimes it's not enough.
What else with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take medicine. I mean, I think sometimes you have to and sometimes you need to. But if you could have something like this
Yeah.
that can really heal your brain and not have to be on a pill that you don't know where you're because sometimes you get misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
So
What did
it's-
you present that day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
And it
did
is
you
If I
just
didn't
all-
present?
present
it's all
something
trial
else,
and
or I
error.
did this
Yeah.
thing, you know?
And And it's so sick because I was diagnosed with ADD, and I remember them being like, "Oh, you probably have bipolar and ADD," and I'm like, "What? And what? I don't even know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And so, but
You gotta
nobody.
leave with some diagnosis.
Yes, and nobody ever, and I was just going through hormones as a young teenager and probably still dealing with trauma that I didn't even know what was happening. But it didn't make sense to me how you can only go diagnose me by my words or my lack of words, but never look into my brain.
Exactly.
So you don't see my chemistry. How do you know what I'm really going through? Maybe I'm just having a bad day.
Exactly. But you presented that on that day.
Exactly.
And, God bless them. They're doing with what they can to, in that moment with their resources, which is pretty much nothing. Right. So our clinic where we take care of people, we're not anti-med.
Yeah.
We're just against the idea that that's the only thing.
Like it's the only option.
Yeah.
I agree. Because sometimes those medicines you really need.
Yeah. I work at a psych hospital where it's, they stay for a week, 2 weeks at the longest. And that's a crisis center, Like we don't have a year of therapy to sit with them. We have that week.
Yeah.
So no doubt. And meds have their place. And, maybe we could take less of them with this therapy.
Which I think is
or
the
figure
great
out
goal.
which ones are actually effective.
Yeah. And are you on the correct ones?
Yeah. Correct
Because-
dose, correct
yes.
ones. That all takes time. It takes weeks to set in to be like, oh, that was the wrong one.
And how are you exercising and eating and all of those things that take a big play in it too? Because our food is poison. Half of it.
Exactly.
Your food will heal or kill you. So.
Yeah.
And we have toxicity reports that show
exactly.
that our food is filled with microplastics and fecal and like just horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What you're doing and how brave you are to come on here and get this out
Share it
there
all.
because it's so important. And we appreciate everything that you are doing and helping these kiddos. And
Thanks for having me.
We're learning so much. I
this
didn't
is
even really know about it besides from April, but I was so fascinated. And I truly believe it makes sense to me. This makes sense to me on how this can heal. And I just keep doing what you're doing. And we're going to share this all over. And we want to.
Yeah, I think this is great.
Yeah, and
I'd love
help
to
you
see
get
more of this.
resources. Yes, you just met with Desiree Cook, and she said
that was cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
what a great connection. So if there's anything that you want to leave our audience with of what you need to keep this going.
Definitely donations. I mean, we're more money we have, the more kids we can help. I do plan to stay like a small operation for now, and put a lot of money into a few kids.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't know, just be thankful for the things that upset you. That you do something about it.
Yeah.
I like that. Actually, be thankful there are things that
Yeah.
upset you. Like that's
Because if you're numbing it, then that's a whole
you'll never
other.
heal from it.
Well, it's like sitting around at work having the same conversations. Like, hey, these kids need something. But it's kind of like the bystander effect. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, that you just
Like you need to,
you say nothing.
we're wired to like not take action because it could be scary, right? It could be deadly. It could be a threat. But if we see someone else take action, we follow
It
along.
pushes you to do
Right. So they've done like social experiments on this thing.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of them,
Where they show like kids getting kidnapped,
and nobody
like,
doing anything.
and people freeze,
Yeah.
But there was a part of that experiment where, some men had stepped in, and like they weren't going to stand for it, and then other people on the sidewalk also started to rush to it, and they had to be like, whoa, it's an experiment because it was starting to escalate. And doing this kind of work is kind of like that,
Yeah.
So you got to just be more than angry.
Yeah.
Got to more than just sit around and bitch about it. Yeah.
And do something about
Do
it.
something, yeah.
And if this is, we're seeing this all over the place, and we're seeing, how do I help? How do I help? My passion's kids. I really want to help. Well, this is it. So this is one of the way we talk about the aftercare program. And yes, the trauma of what these children have gone through is horrific, but now it's time to heal. And if we can get someone like you, the resource, who has the source, the resource, and we can get you the money to be able to, because you said it was like $200 for every session, correct?
Per session.
Per session.
Yeah.
So we need to get you these funds, because this is healing people.
Yeah.
And I think what you guys can do out there who are listening and watching, share this, donate. This is how we make the change. This is how we aren't standing by, being a bystander. We are called to action, and this is your call to action. Make something worth it.
Absolutely.
So, because these kids have already been through it. They've already been through the trauma. You can't take that away, but you can help them heal. And this is one of the steps that can be able to do that.
Yeah, and just split from the normal path.
Yeah.
You know, there's a system that exploits them, that benefits off them being on a massive amount of meds and,
Yeah.
you know, things like that. Yeah. And as far as like help, you know, things that help us, like every little bit matters. Like I got a handful of friends that are giving me $5 a month, $20 a month, $30 a month each. And every month that passes, it covers all, you know, what little overhead we have. You know, the website, the IRS stuff, all the extra stuff we have to pay for, that's covered by those monthly donors. So at this point, all the donations we get, all of it goes straight to the kids. Right? So if you give me 1 cent or $100, you know, I'm thankful.
That's amazing. So we're going to link that, your foundation, below, and you guys reach out to Cue, because what he's doing is so amazing, and we're so thankful to have you on here. And we appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Last thing, it was my wife, you know, that did the research and found this place when I was at a point where I gave up. So I found this place, was super skeptical, and to entertain her, make her happy, I just kept showing up, and I actually did start to heal. So it started there, you know, it started with my parents, you know, sitting in the kitchen with my mom cooking growing up, just her filling my head with, you know, ideas, thoughts, philosophies, and just following her lead. She's a very empathetic person, you know, so just trying to be like her in any way, and I know a lot of people get help.
It's beautiful.
Oh, you really, I know this. I'm so proud of you. You're going to be doing you already are doing wonderful things. So
Thank you.
don't be afraid to keep speaking, because you are amazing. And thank you everybody for listening and watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And thank you for listening to us blare it out.